All right, what's happening, Hunt League community? I'm Jared Newman, big game hunter, founder of the Hunt League mobile app, husband and father of 4 awesome kids, and definitely a bit of a hunting gear junkie. At any given moment, I am ready to talk rifles, bows, optics, backpacks, and any hunting story that you want to talk about. So much so that my wife often forbids me from talking about hunting related topics at all when I'm out in public. So I like to lock myself down here in the basement and make these YouTube videos so that I can talk to you and talk about hunting for hours. Let's start the conversation, which means I would love to hear your voice. What are you running? What do you have experience with? And share your suggestions in the comments. Now, there is no need to be nasty or trash people, products, or companies. So let's make it a productive conversation and see if we can help each other when it comes to our glassing system and tripod setup. So over the past few weeks, I've discovered a few new products that I'm excited about, and I've had several people ask, both inside and outside the Hunt League community, about tripods, Bino attachments, and my glassing system, which is constantly evolving and changes from hunt to hunt and even scout to scout. I could easily talk for over an hour about tripods, binoculars, spotting scopes, chest and bino harness systems. So let's break this up and make this the start of a mini series on my ideal, Western glassing system. So up first, we're gonna tackle bino clamps and what you may wanna use to attach your binoculars to a tripod or support system. I've got 3 right here that are all under $50 that I really like. We've got this center post style right here from Field Optics Research. We've got the Bino clamp from Aziak Equipment, and we've got this new Sparrow from Wiser Precision that I recently highlighted is one of my top 5 favorite things from the 2025 Western Hunt Expo. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive straight into the pros and cons of these 3, as well as identify a few other options that you may want to consider. We'll start with this, the Field Optics Research Bino attachment that I picked up a few years back. Almost all center post style attachments, they come with a small stud that you screw into the front of your binos. Now, most binoculars, they come with like a small cover, kind of like this little vortex cap. It's a logo cap, and it hides this hole so that you may have to remove, you might have to remove a sticker or unscrew this little cap. This specific bino post, it's a little different than most in that once the stud is attached, you're actually sliding the center post into the stud instead of kind of the more common system where you slide the stud into the middle of the center post. That's kind of like what you see with the Vortex, the Leupold, the Outdoorsman's, all of those. This style is generally super easy to attach, although my fat fingers seem to make this more difficult than I feel like it should be to screw in. So what are the pros and cons, though, of this type of system? Well, first off, they're pretty universal and they fit just about every type of binocular. They're ultra lightweight, they're super stable, and I really like how they keep your glass centered over the top of the tripod. If you own multiple pairs of binoculars that you switch between, this style is a pretty big plus because you can just buy these extra studs and they're usually under 10 bucks. I mean, I've got one in this old pair of Nikons, got one here in my hand. So I stack up on these because if I'm ever gonna go on a hunt or I wanna take somebody with me, we can just screw one of these in, and then this kind of becomes a universal system for everybody. Now, let's talk about some of the potential cons of like a post system like this that you may want to avoid. The biggest negative for me is related to compatibility and portability. Years ago, when I bought this from Field Optics Research, I was comparing this one against the more expensive Outdoorsman's Bino adapter. Now, the Outdoorsman's, they're great. They lock up tighter than this, and the base of their post, though, is designed for a kind of proprietary specific dovetail clamp. So if you want to connect it to just about any modern tripod, you're gonna have to buy or attach some kind of an Arca plate to the bottom, which is simple enough, but this is where the problem lies for me with this post style connection. When it comes to compatibility and portability, the post style attachments are generally too large to stay connected to the binos and inserted into your bino harness. So if I were just to take this you know, that would be clamped on top of a tripod. Got this harness right here. This is the one that I use for archery. It's not gonna wanna fit. I mean, I can force it in here, but now I'm really like pushing this because that Bino post sticks out too far. They're not really designed to tuck into your chest harness. Although they are simple to remove, meaning for this one, there's just a little like spring tab right up here at the front. Just push that down and then kind of roll it out. And now you do have a small post and potentially an arca plate that you have to carry, meaning this piece right here. You have to carry it separate from your tripod, separate from your binos, and this could be something that you potentially lose or misplace while you're in the field. Now, I've carried these in the side pockets of my pants for convenience, but it's always been uncomfortable because the angles, I mean, you can see right here, you've got sharp edges that constantly poke and rub you if they're in your pants, even in your jacket. You know, you'll find that you're bumping it with your arm, your hand, it's digging into you in some way. There are now, though, a few models that you can buy where these angles, like these corners, are kind of machined off or they're cut at another angle so you don't have like as sharp of an angles, that are also ARCA compatible, and they wouldn't be as bad for you to carry. But I would still avoid carrying them in my pant or jacket pocket. Most of the time, a post adapter like this will live in one of the side kind of zip pouches of my kind of a hip pouch on my backpack. But even then, I get nervous about it potentially falling out as I use those pockets often for things like headlamps, calls, or, you know, I don't know, my keys or other things that I want quick access to in the field. Where these really shine to me, though, is with heavy binoculars. Like if you were to get like a Vortex Razor HD, like maybe like the 18 by 56, those are binos that I will bring along when I know that I'm going to be out for an extended glassing session where, you know, stability, or I might be looking really far and it's really key. And I'm typically not rushing around as much. So a post setup like this where I'm not pulling this in and out of my bag, it works pretty dang good. I do think these are more comfortable. It elevates the bino, it centers them up, and it's super easy to manipulate, you know, your handle or, you know, technically the ball head. But if I'm just doing glassing, I really prefer a fluid head. Now, the last thing I'll say about this post style is they have several super cheap options on Amazon that you can choose from. I know there's one from this company, like, forget what the Fanu or something like that, or even like a bog adapter you can find for under 20 bucks on Amazon. Now, if you want to spend $100 because you're fancy like that and maybe you wear Sitka underwear to work every day, then I would recommend the Leupold adapter, as it locks up really tight. It's about 100 bucks. It's ARCA compatible, and the edges that I was talking about of the base plate are rounded off. So you're not gonna poke yourself or potentially tear through a pocket as easily in that fancy Jetstream jacket or Ascent pants that you got. So that's it for the post style. Moving on, let's take a look at the Aziak Equipment Bino Clamp and the Wiser Precision Sparrow. Both are currently priced under 40 bucks. They both weigh less than 1 ounce and they operate fairly similarly with a few key distinctions. I will say that since putting this Aziak Equipment Bino Clamp on my binoculars, I have never looked back. Attaching it was super simple as long as you order the right size. Once I locked it on in the proper position, mine has never shifted and it has been rock solid with a super low profile. I mean, this thing on the bottom just sticks out just a little bit. I've had no issues with the sliding in and out of like my bino harness. So if I've got this one, which I've used the Stone Glacier one quite a bit for kind of archery, it's really a streamlined, ultra lightweight. It's waterproof, that kind of deal. So it goes in and out like no problem. I can close it up. So if you're concerned about that little extra, and if I was really concerned about it, I have it even scooted out a little bit further on the objective. I could bring it a little bit closer to the bridge. It would probably even balance a little bit better. But once I lock this in place, I have not moved it one time. And I kind of moved it forward just because I like being able to manipulate it with my hands and not have my hand over that bino harness ridge. But I use this one for archery, and then, you know, when I'm doing maybe like a turkey hunt, late season rifle hunt, doing an NRL hunter match. I've been using this QU. It's a kind of a newer chest harness that they have. So got my little striker and all my turkey call. You know, you got your pot calls, all that. Big Bino harness. No issues whatsoever sliding it in if you've got either the Aziak or the Arrow, Sparrow is what I meant to say, attachment on either of these. So let's talk about those, some of the key differences between the Aziak and the Wiser Precision. For ease of attachment, I'm going to give the edge to this, to the Aziak. If you get the right size, you just have to fit the clamp over kind of one objective. So this is probably going to be a better size than maybe the Fury. I think this little Nikon's maybe just a little smaller. This is one of their smaller clamps. So if I were to take this, I'm going to put the side that's going to screw into on this. So you can make this left or right side. Just slide that bell, slide it right over the one bell of the objective, clamp that down. You're going to put a screw right there. And this one actually has a center post and this, and it would work fine to even if I wanted to double that up. But super simple. It's one screw. Once you run a screw through there, tightens up. Once that's done, again, it has never shifted on me one time. Locks up nice and tight. Now with the Sparrow, I pulled it straight out of the package, pulled the straps, and these straps, you've got a little pull tab right here, kind of shrinks that down. With this Sparrow, the first time I attached it to a tripod, I was instantly a fan, and I thought, man, I might actually like this attachment system a little better than the Aziak. But then as I continued to glass through it, I started to notice it seemed slightly less stable, even though what I really liked, kind of what was making me think like, man, I might like this more, is that the attachment spot is more centered. Because, you know, if I put this on, this Arca part would be on the outside. But if I turn it to the inside, you'll see that once this is clamped down, that Arca attachment is almost dead center in the middle of your Bino. So you kind of get closer to that center post and you can kind of find the right balance point of your binos on top of your tripod, which is really great. But it started like, when I first did it, it seemed to like move around, and I started to think, well, maybe it's because, you know, the Aziak one is like plastic and it's hard, and this is flimsy, and I'm just not getting the stability that I want. But as it turns out, it was just user error. I'm probably not the only one here guilty of not always reading the instructions before use. So when you open this Sparrow package, you'll see that it comes with two Allen keys. One is for a ratchet system. So you've got a little hex screw right there. When you screw that, it sucks this thing tighter. And the other one is a set screw that locks these straps in place. So the slop that I actually started to feel was because the straps were slowly beginning to loosen up as I continued to manipulate the binos and tripod. Once I went back and realized the issue there, this thing locked up super tight and offers a very similar and stable glassing experience. But that is why I kind of have to give the edge as far as ease of attachment to the Aziak over this from Wiser Precision. Next, and once you understand that, there's not really an issue. All right, next, let's compare compatibility and look at these from two fronts. Both have an Arca attachment, so they clip into most tripods. But what if you own a tripod like this one that doesn't have an Arca plate that I picked up from Bass Pro several years ago for $60, when tripods now cost $600 and they do the exact same thing? So I'm just saying that right there could get me on a hot topic. I know I'm silly for wanting, you know, like a pair of pants for $50, like all the other pants that I wear. But apparently you can't wear pants while hunting. You have to wear gear. And I know it's related to the expensive, like polyester and nylon technology normally found in pants, that they're now being applied though in high-tech layering systems for your legs. So instead of pants, you're buying a high-tech layering system. So now instead of paying $50, it's going to cost you $200. And you should be happy about that, especially if you're a Sitka guy that needs to keep the water out. As if you want to keep the water out, it's going to run you $300 because of that, you know, that nano hyper infused gear particles that you pay for to keep your balls dry. Honestly, I'm shocked that they don't charge more. And wow, I can't believe I just said that. So somebody please help me rein this back in, as I've already offended all the dry ball hunters out there, you Sitka fans. And sorry to just call out Sitka folks when it happens to all of us, whether you wear First Light, like the $300 pair of First Light Omen pants that I just got, or the Stone Glacier, or the QU, or the Forlow, or the Canis. I mean, the list goes on. That's what you get when your wife says that you're not allowed to talk about hunting in public. And sometimes maybe you just have all those emotions a little bit bottled up. So, all right, for real. Where I was talking about this. All right, compatibility. So let's say you're using this. This is a, if you have a tripod that's not an Arca plate, you'll have some kind of a plate. And this Aziak equipment clamp, it has your standard threading so that you can attach another type of base plate and still use it with that tripod. Now, if you pick up the Wiser Precision Sparrow, you will see it has a big giant hole kind of in the bottom with no threads. And you might think like, well, how's that going to help? How are you going to be able to attach anything to it? Well, it won't if you're trying to attach it to like a tripod, like a base plate or something, that's not Arca compatible. So if you have an old tripod like this, it's not going to work. This hole right here, this is going to work for your ultralight backpack hunter that maybe didn't bring a tripod, but they have a great trekking pole. Because all you have to do is flip that trekking pole around and you have yourself a stable monopod glassing system, which is pretty dang handy if you ask me. The other thing that you get with this Wiser Precision clamp, when it comes to compatibility, is this thing right here is super versatile. It should work on just about any type of binocular. I mean, it'll go over any objective bell because of the strap system. You can throw it, like whereas the Aziak, you have to get a specific size for the binoculars that you're using. But you can throw this, you can put it on a rangefinder. I can put it on like a small spotting scope. I can get it around this. Or even something like this SIG Oscar 3 that I picked up a few years ago when they were venturing kind of into the image stabilized optics. One of many fatal flaws though with this optic is that it doesn't have any way to attach a tripod or even like a window mount system. You can put it inside like a clamp like this, but that's not ideal. So if you're a hunter that runs different Bino systems depending on the hunt or task at hand, you may want to consider going this route or roll with kind of the post, because you can just get a bunch of these adapters. I probably wouldn't try to put something super heavy on these straps, but you get the idea that you're not just going to be like limited to one fixed objective size like you are with the Aziak equipment Bino harness or Bino clamp. Another thing that I really like though about this Wiser Precision Sparrow is that it puts the Arca plate back towards the center of the binocular. I kind of pointed that out earlier. You slide it on this way and it sits right there in the middle. Whereas when you use the Aziak, it's on this one as well, you're off on just one side or the other. So obviously if you're trying to balance, it's just going to want to fall off. So you're going to be fighting the tripod and the tripod head a little bit more. Is that a big deal? Not really, unless you're running a heavier set of binos, maybe on a ball head where the balance point matters a little more. Again though, with those heavy binos, I tend to favor this post style system just a little bit, because when I'm fully set up and glassing, it sits maybe just a little more stable and it gives me that center point that I'm looking for. However, the convenience of the Aziak and Wiser Precision, these two just being strapped on, this wins the day for me all day long. So I have pretty much completely abandoned using a post style, even though there are some scenarios where I still prefer it if I had it with me. And that's a big if, because nowadays I pretty much just rely on one of these two. So let's wrap this up, as hopefully some of the pros and cons above will help you decide what is going to work best for your upcoming hunts and scouts. For me, I live in Colorado where I hunt public land. I've got all this stuff out now as I'm contemplating, I'm weighing it, and I'm trying to figure out what am I going to use this season, as I hope to draw an archery mule deer tag for early September. followed shortly by, I've got 2 friends coming in from Vortex for an archery elk and muzzleloader hunt. And then before I go on a really special hunt that I'm excited about, where I'll be chasing elk with 3 previous league winners from inside the Hunt League app. And that we're going to do during second rifle. It's an over-the-counter hunt, followed by a deer and elk hunt with my boys during third season, with some other family members that are all going to come out here. So that's a lot of different hunts, seasons, and methods of take. So I'm running a couple different systems. And as of right now, for the high country mule deer hunt, I'm looking at running, let's see, this Mountain Hunter SS. It's an ultralight tripod with their Mountain Hunter fluid head. This entire setup weighs less than 2 pounds. It's super stable, and I won't need anything to shoot off. I'm not shooting a rifle. It's only got one like one leg extension versus like some that have 2, 3, 4. You know, you start getting to those little micro ones that fit. Those are so great, but I don't like all the different legs. These has 2 really stable legs, which means I'm not gonna be full standing height behind this tripod. But for that archery hunt, I'm never standing and trying to glass. I'm always seated, usually on the edge of a mountainside, you know, sloping away. This has plenty of height with the 3 legs and a center post, you know, that I can pull this up once this is fully extended. I mean, I've got plenty of height. I could glass from this chair and run this to the floor and have my binos right up here. So for that hunt specifically, I'll be running this Aziak equipment Bino clamp. As I know it's always going to be with me. It's always ready. It slides right into my chest harness, as well as this tripod, which is the SS tripod for Mountain Hunter. Super small, compact, under 2 pounds. Freaking love this thing. Like, not a little bit, like a lot of it. Now for the muzzleloader, archery. So it's both muzzleloader and archery. We got 2 different people. One's got a muzzleloader, one's got an archery. For that hunt, I'm also going to be running the Aziak Bino clamp again, but I'm going to step up my tripod and either run, you know, depending on the situation, if we're not packing in too far, I might bring this switchback with me, or most likely what I'm going to bring is also a Mountain Hunter tripod, but this one has a double leg extension, and I'll probably slap this ball head on, and you know, I've been swapping everything in and out, but I'm thinking about running this because if we think there's a chance that we may need like a tripod to shoot from on that hunt, I mean, if I have my preference, it would definitely be the switchback, especially on like a heavy recoiling kind of rifle like that muzzleloader. And I definitely prefer a ball head over like a fluid head if I'm shooting off it. So the TS, it's just barely beefier than the Mountain Hunter SS one that I just picked up. And it's probably my preference because of the size and weight, but it can be pulled up all the way to standing height, and it will work in a pinch if I have to shoot off it or use it as a rear support. Now, for the third season, this is where I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to go with this Wiser Precision. So, and I said third season, but it's actually for the second season, the third hunt. So the second season rifle, I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to go with this Wiser Precision Sparrow, along with probably the Aziak Equipment Ridgeline Tripod. That's one that I featured in the top 5 things that I saw this year at the Western Hunt Expo. The Ridgeline, it is super compact, comes with a built-in mini kind of ball head. It's an integrated head, so you can't like take it off and on. But that entire system weighs in at 20 ounces. Like 20 ounces, that's nuts. Why would I switch to that one? Well, on this hunt specifically, the plan is to hike in about like 6 to 10 miles. So carrying something big like this switchback, even though we plan to shoot, or, you know, even bigger like this Radian is like super heavy. Both of those are incredible tripods to shoot off of, but they're not near as fun to hike back like 6 to 10 miles. They're just too heavy. So the Ridgeline, along with the Sparrow, will let me glass while we look for elk. And then if Josh or Brandon or Wally, if they need a tripod to shoot, you know, for a quick shot opportunity, I can pass them the Ridgeline, and I can quickly convert a trekking pole, you know, probably both trekking poles. I'll quickly be able to convert one trekking pole and use it as a monopod for glassing, you know, using this Sparrow system. and I can use the other trekking pole to attach to a camera. And what I'm thinking is getting the Argali trekking poles. They have at the top of the Argali, you can pop something and then you can screw in an X3 pole adapter. So if I had that pole adapter, I could screw into that same threading that's on this Aziak equipment and use that as a monopod. However, if we're kind of in that scenario, and you understand this when you're hunting, where we see something, we're trying to get set up, I want to be able to hand the ridge line. I don't want to be screwing two of those little X3 pole adapters, one for this, one for the camera. So I think the quickest thing to do is going to be to flip a trekking pole really quick, get on glass right away. And then if we have time to get it on camera, great, we'll do that. But having those two trekking poles will allow you to kind of have two monopods plus the tripod to shoot off of. So that's what I'm leaning toward during that second season rifle hunt, kind of that third hunt of the year for me. And it will be, again, like a similar story for third season hunt with my boys. But for that, I'm going to plan to carry the switchback for sure. That tripod, along with some trekking poles, because we're not going to be covering near as much ground. So the weight of the tripod, it's not going to be as significant to me. And the switchback is just an incredible tripod to shoot from. It provides just a rock solid platform. So I want to give the boys the most confidence. I mean, I'm taking a 14-year-old, a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old cousin. So having something like this is going to give them a ton of confidence. And then by having the Argali hiking poles, those will work perfect with this Wiser Precision Sparrow adapter, because we can, again, use this to glass from. I can have one of the boys looking for impact while I'm maybe fiddling with the camera with that X3 pole adapter. You know, but if I start going down that road of like carrying the pole adapter, even carrying two, then I'm back to carrying like small parts that I'm nervous about potentially losing, or I'm having to dig up out of pockets or something like that. So that's where, like, I don't really know that like I want to be carrying a lot of those extra small pieces, because those are the things to me that end up getting lost or misplaced while I'm out on a hunt. So having the simplicity of being able to flip a trekking pole instantly and just put that right there and to have that kind of stability, that's what I'm looking for. All right, I think I've talked long enough. I hope this helps. I hope it helps you make an informed decision. I know I didn't cover things like, you know, you got like kind of tack plates. You know, Leupold has like a Bino tray. There's several of those, or, you know, there's trays with straps that kind of go around them. There's other systems too that are kind of like clamps, like Really Right Stuff has a great little Bino attachment. There's also some universal clamps that you can just kind of put on and like screw from the side. All of those are great. None of those I would actually use. I don't want anything that's bulky. Again, I'm not looking for extra pieces that are going to come off the tripod and off the Bino that I have to store somewhere. That's just not going to make sense for me. The tray style, I do like those if I'm like at a shooting range. You just pop them on, kind of leave them set up there. You can walk up. That's maybe the only time that I'll ever use like a full standing tripod, and I'll go get behind glass to kind of look at impacts on a target. But if I mentioned the RRS one, RRS makes like ridiculously nice tripods. If you've never heard, it's Really Right Stuff. Super expensive stuff. I mean, you're going to get a tripod for over $1,000, a lot of times $800, $900 for some of their smaller ones. They sell kind of their entry-level clamp is $50. Their next level, I think, is maybe just over $100, and it's the difference between plastic and, I think, machined parts. Their stuff is a little bit bulky because you're putting like a strap over it and like pulling down and connecting. And if you look at it, it's definitely bulkier than what you're going to get with this Aziak equipment, which just has maybe an 1/8 of an inch ring that goes around in a small thing. And then the Sparrow is even smaller. I mean, I think that's down to like 1/100 of an inch or something silly with how thin this one is. So let me know in the comments below what you have experience with when it comes to your glassing system, maybe some of your recommendations or what you're considering. If you ever want to talk gear inside the Hunt League community with me or other hunters, download the Hunt League mobile app and jump into the Gear of the Year League inside the app. I told you that I could easily talk for an hour on building a glassing system, and we are actually just beginning to scratch the surface in this discussion as we just kind of tackle Bino clamps today. But if you want to join the next glassing discussion, subscribe to this channel so it's more likely to show up in your feed. And good luck to you as you head out on your next adventure. Feel free to drop a comment or question below, and hope to see you share your hunts and scout stories with me inside the Huntley community. Thanks for watching.